2024 is just weeks away, and it's already shaping up to be a defining year for North Carolina.
Earlier today, WXI 12's Kenny Beck made the trip to Raleigh to speak one-on-one with Governor Roy Cooper.
Kenny joins us in studio tonight with the second part of their conversation centered on next year's election. Kenny.
Well, Devontae, Christine, North Carolina's filing period for candidates ends tomorrow at noon, and our primary election, if you can believe this, is about 2.5 months away. Governor Cooper says even though his name won't be on the ballot next year, he will be working like it is. I asked him if he's surprised at how popular former President Trump remains in our state and across our country.
It's unfortunate that that is the case, because this is a person who has tried to overturn an election, the will of the people. That's a threat to democracy. But at the end of the day, I do not believe the people of this country will elect him. I believe that people will elect President Biden, who has done more in the first 2 years of his service than most presidents could hope to do in 2 terms.
Back in August, Roy Cooper endorsed Attorney General Josh Stein to succeed him in the governor's mansion. Stein will have to win his primary first, and if he does, he could be up against the state's Republican Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson, who already has former President Trump's endorsement.
Josh Stein will be a great governor. I've known him personally for 25 years. He worked with me closely heading up our consumer protection team when I was Attorney General. He cares deeply about North Carolina families. There will be a stark contrast in Mark Robinson, who has used violent hate speech to try and divide people. I don't think that that is what the people of North Carolina want to present to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. Obviously, we are a very purple state, and any time that Republicans are running against Democrats, it's going to be a close race in North Carolina.
Recently, the state has shifted to the right, with Republicans now enjoying supermajorities in both chambers of the state legislature and a majority on the state's Supreme Court. They're also projected to pick up 3 to 4 seats in Congress next year.
When you see fair districts being drawn, you see fair results. When a fair map was put in place, we ended up with 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans in Congress. And we ought to move to independent redistricting commissions to deal with swings both right and left, having a fair way to draw these maps where the representatives aren't choosing the people that they get to represent and making it vice versa. That's what we ought to do, because with fair maps, we wouldn't have a supermajority in the General Assembly, and we would have an even number of people going to Congress. This state is going to continue to be close, but I believe that there are a lot of people who believe in common sense and believe in these basic tenets that want to move North Carolina forward.
Roy Cooper will be 67 years old next summer. He has held elected office uninterrupted in North Carolina since 1987. He tells me he enjoys public service, but he's not sure what he's going to do next. He did not rule out running for elected office again, whether it's in Washington, D.C. or Raleigh in the future.